looking at one of the coolest things Nike ever released, the exploding poncho bag that came from the collaboration with artist Tom Sachs. Now, if you don't know Tom Sachs, you probably all know Tom Sachs, right? Anyway, if you don't, he's one of the most important artists of our time. He's shown his work in famous places like the Guggenheim Museum in New York, the Centre Pompidou in Paris, and so forth and so on. Probably his most famous work is the space program, where he basically created a life-size replica of the Apollo lunar module, completely out of plywood and steel, which is just insane if you ask me. Now on to the collaboration with Nike. So back in 2012, Nike and Tom Sachs founded Nike Craft, which is basically a 50-50 enterprise between Nike and Tom Sachs. They're now into the third collection, and probably the most famous item that came out of the collaboration is the Mars Yard sneaker, which you probably all know by now. They're insanely limited, and unless you're willing to spend a couple of grand on a pair of shoes, there's no chance of you getting one. Now the deployable poncho here is part of the third and latest Nike Craft collection, which is called the Transitions collection. Also part of the collection were the Mars Yard overshoes, and I'll probably do a review of them soon. Also part of the collection were a hat and some down shorts. Now, I've seen the hat pop up on Grailed a couple of times, but I've never seen the down shorts, to be honest. So if you know anything about the down shorts, please let me know down in the comments. I think those look really awesome, but I'm not sure they ever really released. Now, the apparel stuff from the collection first launched in Japan at the same time as the tea ceremony exhibition from Tom Sachs, which took place in Tokyo. A couple of months later, then a global release followed, but stocks were extremely limited. I know the bag, for example, launched in a couple of places in Europe. I tried to get one at the time. It was literally impossible because they were so limited. So this one I actually bought on Grailed a couple of months later. And I have to say, I got raped pretty hard on the price. But to me, it's one of the most amazing product designs ever. And since I can't afford a real Tom Sachs piece, I'm pretty happy with this, to be honest. Anyway, enough talking, guys. Let's get out in nature, deploy that sucker, and see if we can come up with some cool shots. So it actually took Nike over 4 years and several dozens of prototypes to come up with this design. And the idea actually originated in Nike's design department as part of an internal challenge. And the challenge was to come up with transforming garments. And so one of the projects they're working on was this self-deploying poncho. There was basically a small poncho that was packed inside a small bag. So they worked on several prototypes, and the best prototype they had was this small bag with a poncho inside that had a tear-away zipper. And it was a good idea, but it was really difficult for the wearer to deploy the poncho and then to repack it. So they kept on working on this idea for another 2 years and did like 8 or 9 more prototypes until Nike's head of design reached out to Tom Sachs and asked him to join the project. And they've been working with Tom Sachs and his team in the past before. And Tom was really excited about the idea. And Tom and his team, like, they're artists and makers, so they approach a problem like that from a different perspective. So what they did is they kept the original idea, but changed the mechanism, right? So the deployment mechanism and also the repacking mechanism. They added the flaps from all sides and also added the fanny pack design. So Tom Sachs, in collaboration with Nike's design team, together came up with this finalized design. And it's really interesting for me, or so cool to know that so much work and thinking went into such a small product. So we just arrived at the lake. Let's see if we can come up with some cool shots. So we got some good shots at the lake. It's quite cinematic when you open it up, so it's pretty cool. Should be some cool shots. So now let's talk fabric, right? So the bag is made out of Dyneema, and I have some Dyneema at my studio that I use for making bags myself. So I would say let's go there and talk Dyneema. Alright, so we're in my studio now, and I thought since this bag is made out of Dyneema, I usually make bags out of Dyneema in here. I have different variations of Dyneema, so let's talk Dyneema. So there are many different versions of Dyneema. So let's start. This is the thinnest that I have. As you can see, it has almost like a see-through kind of thickness. It's ultra lightweight, water resistant, wind resistant. This kind of thickness is usually used for garments, for like clothing and stuff like that. It's not recommended for bags because it's not rigid enough, it's too thin. If you want to make a bag out of Dyneema, use a thicker version of Dyneema, not the thinnest, which this one is. So I would not recommend making a bag out of this. However, I've made a bag out of this. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's ultra lightweight, has a waterproof YKK zipper as well. Anyway, so that was the thinnest version of Dyneema. I have a thicker one as well. Compare those two. Not sure if you can see that in the camera, but this is way stiffer, way more rigid. And that thicker Dyneema here is actually pretty similar to the Dyneema that is used here on the Nike and Tom Sachs bag. This is not Dyneema, but it's still a super interesting fabric. So it's basically an insulating fabric that is white on one side and silver on the other. And it's ultra soft, it's almost like cotton or something like that. And I've actually made a card holder out of this. As you can see, it has like a fitlock buckle here. You can attach it to your belt loop, put your cards in. And then the last Dyneema that I have here is one of the coolest in my opinion. So that's Dyneema here on this side. As you can see, it's like a gray textured kind of Dyneema. And it's basically bonded to a ripstop fabric on the other side. So that's super interesting fabric. It really feels good in the hand as well. I'll probably make a bag of this soon. But yeah, anyway, so those were the versions of Dyneema that I have. Let's talk about how easy it is, or how difficult rather it is to work with Dyneema. So Dyneema is really interesting to work with because it is really difficult to work with. Let me demonstrate. Let me just show you my tools that I usually use for cutting. Let's say I make a bag out of leather. Those would be the tools that I use to cut the leather, right? So this one with a good old carpenter knife and one of those bad boys. My tools are always sharp, very sharp. Let me demonstrate you on some horse leather. Could probably start with this one. All right. And when you cut Dyneema, it's really difficult to get a clean cut because the fibers are so small and so strong. I'm not sure if you can see this. And forget your scissors, right? So if you want to cut, anyway, it's difficult to work with, especially when you're like a small operation like I am. When you have like an industrial kind of production, then you obviously have the tools, right? So it's probably easier with the machines and stuff. But when you have to do everything by hand, it can be really, really difficult to work with Dyneema. All right, so let's see what else this bag has to offer. So as you can see, the strap here is made out of nylon. It's actually pretty solid, pretty high quality nylon. As you can see, you have the 10 bullets logo here. As for the closing mechanism for the strap, you have a magnetic fitlock buckle. I have a couple of fitlock buckles here as well. That would be a black one. That would be the regular silver one. These are commonly used these days in like tech wear, belts, bags, and jackets even sometimes. That would be a Cobra belt buckle. Pretty cool as well. Has nothing to do with the bag. I just thought it's a cool buckle. So the poncho itself is made out of a 3-layer waterproof and windproof fabric. And here under the Tom Sachs logo we see a patent pending, and as far as I know the patent for the deployment mechanism is actually pending, so that's quite a cool detail here. Alright guys, that's it from my side. Like I said, I really love this piece. It's a genius product design. It's not a substitute for a full-blown rain jacket, but it's a great emergency solution, and you still have a bag with enough space for your phone, etc. So yeah, anyway, that's it from my side. If you like this video, do me a favor, hit that old like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm planning on releasing new videos on a weekly basis, and if you have any questions or comments, use the comment section down below. Alright guys, see you in the next one. Ciao.